His first day of trading was thrilling. It beat any video game he'd ever played. Of course, he lost money on some trades, but he made money on others. Once he was done, he took meticulous notes and pored for hours over them, comparing the bad trades to the good trades, and trying to work out a winning strategy. The time flew by and he was late to class. All that month he won some and he lost some, but his records were showing a slight balance in his favor, and he couldn't have been more excited. The adrenaline he got from a money-making trade easily outweighed the disappointment of a losing one. At least it did until he remembered to subtract his broker's commission fees from his total. That put him in the red, but he satisfied himself that he was still working out his strategy, and next month would be better. Ben was practically living in his basement office now. He slept on the couch sometimes so that when he got up, he could go straight to the computer and read up on the news and remind himself of his developing strategy while he waited for the market to open. He drew a little picture of Jeff Stenton, standing in line at the imaginary future Scott's Bank, and hung it up over his computer monitors so he could remind himself frequently why he was doing this. He'd drawn instead of written it, because sometimes his grandpa brought a sandwich down for him, and he didn't want to explain about Jeff. Ben had a comfortable office with 2 large monitors, a state-of-the-art gaming chair, and a lighting array that made the room bright as day. He bought a filing cabinet which was mostly empty but looked businesslike. The walls had long ago been tastefully decorated in his favorite shades of light blue. If it weren't for the hoodies and shoes and other clutter he frequently left tossed around, the room would have looked great on a magazine cover. Sometimes Ben was amazed at how perfectly things were going. Day trading turned out just as exciting on the 50th day as on the 1st. Sure, he wasn't always making money, especially when he remembered those commission fees, but that was just a matter of figuring out the right strategy. The other drawback was that he was sometimes late to class, and he frequently forgot to do his homework, and his next report card showed it. His grandfather sat down and talked to him about it. "It's just high school, Grandpa," Ben said, fidgeting uncomfortably. "Ben, this is your future." "No, it's not. I'm a day trader now, remember?" "Oh, don't be ridiculous. This is your future," Grandpa repeated, as he waved the report card up and down, speaking in a tone that didn't allow for contradiction. "I know you are capable of getting better grades, and I'm insisting that you put in the work, understood?" "Yes, sir," Ben said. During his second month, Ben made one really bad trade, which made his balance at the end look pretty red, but he thought he was close to cracking the code, and one setback didn't make for bankruptcy anyways. But by the end of the next 2 months, Ben was starting to wonder if success really was just around the corner. He'd been pouring every dime of his allowance into his trading, and had even sold some of his old sports gear and other valuables that he had lying around, trying to keep himself afloat. Every day he thought, "Now I have more experience. Now I'll do better." But it seemed like he was doing worse every day. If he did happen to make a good trade, the emotional high he got from it made him reckless. Sometimes Ben lost more money on the days he made good trades than on the days he made bad ones. He started risking more and more of his capital at a time, hoping for one big win that would make it all worthwhile. Instead, he just got big losses. Finally, there came a day when he lost $3,000 before 11 o'clock. With his finances in the state they were, the loss was deadly serious. Ben cut his losses as best he could, feeling numb. Still numb, He got up and walked outside, without even stopping for a coat. The drizzling April rain matched his gloomy mood. Spring was late this year, and most of the trees were bare and dry. He walked down toward the wood. It looked nothing like it had in fall. Then it had been gorgeous with color and light, crisp with fallen leaves, and alive with creatures and sounds. Today the only sound was the slow drip of rain on the soggy ground. The only color was brown. Brown leaves, brown trees. It looked dead. Ben stopped to stare at a stump. He picked up a fallen stick and hit the stump, venting his frustration. "I failed," he shouted. He looked up at the weeping clouds, and they made him want to cry. "I'll never be rich. I'm good for nothing. I'm worthless." He struck the stump again, hitting it harder and harder, until his stick snapped. He sat down on the wet stump, not caring about its soggy, slimy feel. All his grand air castles tumbled down around him. The drizzly, mossy wood felt like the ghost of a forest, a place where trees had dreamed big and fallen hard. It felt about right to Ben. When he finally got up and walked back home, he was soaking wet. He showered and changed mechanically, then went downstairs to get his school books. He paused by his computer. A sort of wild hope that he'd been in a nightmare or something possessed him, and he woke the computer from its sleep. No, of course not. Ben stared glumly again at the numbers on a screen that spelled failure for him. Then he went around to the back of his computer and pulled the plug. That was over. He picked up his phone and left with a sort of desolate relief and a resolve to never try again. It was then that his phone buzzed. Ben glanced at it and saw the reminder he'd set himself.